The e-gaming industry is a really interesting beast. It has grown massively over the last few years. It doesn't seem that you can turn on the television without being bombarded by adverts for different companies, and just as you think you're reaching market saturation, more and more of them come along with different offers, offering different choices. Through that, it's highly competitive. There has been a degree of consolidation. We have seen various mergers and acquisitions taking place. But also it's an industry that's maturing. They've come through the growth curve. They are now very much a recognised part of life. And one of the major challenges, I think, for them is that as a maturing sector, they're going to need to start thinking and behaving in a much more corporately responsible way to cement their place in our hearts and in the marketplace. There is an awful lot of legislation within this marketplace already. All of it and the different legislative pieces drive focus on different areas. Everything from DPA, Data Protection Act, which all companies have to adhere to, but because so much of this is electronic communication, they're subject to the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulation. They're also highly regulated by the Gambling Commission, so they're LCCPs or Licence Control Permissions around how they actually operate their business. And then from a security point of view, because again, we're talking here heavily IT based and very electronic, they're very much subject to ISO 27001, which drives the data security side of what they do. So these guys do have challenges because it's quite a complex legislative landscape already and lots of things they have to adhere to across lots of different areas of their business. GDPR is going to change their world massively. When you read the articles that have been written so far for the industry, you get a feeling that everybody is starting to accept that change is coming, that there are certainly going to be business practices and ways these organisations have been able to work over the last few years that are no longer going to be appropriate. And it's really going to make them focus on themselves as the data processors and the data owners. The days of being able to use affiliate marketing organisations to knock out the texts and the approaches to customers and go, it's not us, it's a separate company, we're not responsible. The separate company saying, yeah, but we're not the data holders because that's the guys on whose behalf we're doing this, we're not responsible. Those days are gone. The other thing that will change massively is the jurisdiction in which they operate. The days of choosing your location to operate because you might find governments with slightly more flexible data protection laws. GDPR is going to harmonise an awful lot of that. They're going to have to start really thinking about their data and their integrity. And it's not necessarily, in some respects, the ISO 27001, the security, the protecting against hacking, it's all sort of a little bit James Bond and quite sexy, but that's not where the big fines are going to come from for these guys. It's going to be around things like obtaining valid consent at every step of the way when they approach a customer and want to do something with a customer. It's also going to focus heavily on areas such as profiling, because they do so much to manipulate that data so that they can target their marketing. And that's where they're going to need to start focusing. And that's an area, to be perfectly honest, where there hasn't been an awful lot of focus in the past. The fines have been fairly limited. The bite from the likes of the ICO have been fairly limited, and they've just been able to get away with it. GDPR changes all that for them. In order to start getting a handle on this and starting to understand that, again, this is an opportunity for them. And I think companies need to bear that in mind when they're starting to think about this. It looks like a big black looming shadow at the moment, but it is an opportunity to actually do some really smart stuff within their environment that will protect their integrity, build their brand confidence, make people want to trade more with them, and also offer some streamlines and benefits back into their own operational models. With this sector facing probably so much change, probably a sector that's facing more change than most with their GDPR coming in, look to do things like form a GDPR readiness team and start engaging with the Gambling Commission, with the ICO, and starting to drive your understanding of what this is actually going to mean to you. Talk to your peers. Interestingly enough, both the ICO and the Gambling Commission have got open consultations out at the moment to the industry to actually ask for feedback, particularly around potential exemptions, exclusions, where there might be a little bit of wiggle room. So get involved with those and start contributing. They're also probably going to find that within their day-to-day BAU, there is already projects happening, work happening that will be relevant to getting them ready or starting on that road towards GDPR compliance. So have a good look internally at what you're already doing. Look at ways of harnessing the good stuff. Get yourself your data protection officer employed and give your focal point so you've actually got somebody with some accountability in driving this within your organisation. This is not going to be just a technology play for these guys. It really is people, process and technology. And for eGaming particularly, I think the big P is going to be around the process part. But there's a lot they can do that's not scary, that can be broken down into projects that have good business value over and above helping them get compliant, and take that pragmatic view, but more than anything, start now. I think for partners like Computacenter, where we add our value is very much around being able to work with organisations, help them find the good stuff that's already happening within the organisation, help bring a bit of market balance and a view and share what other companies are doing, but then take what we find when we're working with our customers, help with that gap analysis, and start breaking this down into work streams that are bite-sized chunks, recognisable things that organisations can do. And again, with the breadth of portfolio for Computacenter, no one company has a silver bullet for this. Nobody can come and sit in front of you and say, work with us and do X, Y, Z on this checklist and you're GDPR compliant. But working with a partner that has a breadth of portfolio, capability and market penetration is one way of ensuring that you're getting the most out of what you're already doing, finding those gaps, and then taking some guidance as to how to fill those gaps and how to at least demonstrate that you're on the road and that you're taking this seriously.